what you do. Tell us what your passion is and how you think you can benefit the Lady Lunch Club members.
Sounds great. My name is Paul Hickey. I'm the founder and CEO of Data Driven Design, and I love what I do. I've always believed that you can do what you love, and sometimes it takes a while to find what it is that you love. Right now for me, it's building websites, helping clients build their businesses, helping them grow their web traffic and ultimately grow their revenue. And I'm really passionate about learning about other people's businesses, and I feel like a gift that I have sort of developed over the years is just being able to listen and help people get to their value proposition and reach their target audience. And then my goal is to empower them to kind of build it on their own, build their digital marketing strategy on their own. So that's what I'm passionate about right now, and educating people on all the little tricks of the trade. So there's so many different things out there, and I'm motivated by learning everything that's new with Google, everything that's new with Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it is, anything digital marketing, email marketing. If it can be seen in Google Analytics and it can be seen growing web traffic and revenue, then I'm all about it. It just gives me that excitement, you know? It's kind of like some people like to play the stock market, some people like to play fantasy football, they get that little rush of excitement from that, and for me that's what it is right now. So I'm really passionate about being able to help people grow their businesses.
Okay, so tell us how you got to this point. How do you get into it? Internet is still, in the grand scheme of things, very new for most of us who are, over the age of 30 at this point. Tell us how you created this life, this career for yourself. Where did you start and how did you get here?
Sounds good. Well, I'll take it all the way back to when I was a little kid. I feel like I was always the shortest. I always had a chip on my shoulder. So for whatever reason, I always felt, whether or not people thought this about me, I always thought that people were kind of looking at me like, oh, he can't do that. He can't do what this other person can do. And so for whatever reason, I just always had this attitude like, I'm gonna show everyone that I can do it. I can do it myself. Even if I have no idea how to do it, I'm gonna learn how to do it. I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna get there. And so I feel like that's what has motivated me to basically become like a workaholic. Ever since I was 19, I started working all the time, basically, and I got an opportunity to work for the Detroit Pistons. It was a job at the time that everybody wanted, and even though it paid next to nothing, it was an experience that everybody wanted. All my friends thought it was cool. I thought it was kind of a differentiator for me. So I just ran with it, and from there, that was kind of pre-internet. We were still doing the internet existed, but we were still doing everything on paper. We were communicating via fax machine, running a lot of copies, taking it down to the media table and everything like that. And that experience kind of taught me hard work. It kind of taught me that really nobody cared that much about me, and that I had to kind of throw any kind of ego out the door at a young age. And even though I have that I can do it myself attitude, I had to put that in check a little bit, because people were kind of telling me, really just bluntly, anybody, you could be gone tomorrow and then we'd have 2,000 people that would want your job. So it kind of taught me a little bit of humility, and I had to hone that I can do it myself attitude into, okay, well, yeah, I can do all these things, but now how do I make it valuable and productive for everyone? And so right around that time, say 1 or 2 years in, then that's when everything started to go a little bit more digital. And so around that time, I started to teach myself more of those skill sets. How can I figure out how to be more valuable? Anybody can run copies of game notes and take them down to the table for the media. Anybody can do a lot of those things that I was doing early on with the Pistons. And so if I could learn how to update websites, how to build websites, Facebook and Twitter were kind of just coming out. So if I could learn how to communicate on those platforms, it was like there was always something next. I had to teach myself what's next. So that's what's kind of propelled me into pushing myself to take the next step into the digital landscape. Then I found, from a content standpoint, I found that there were some things that people weren't talking about online, and I figured, well, I can do that. I can talk about those things. And they were still in the sports arena, so they're kind of into fantasy football. I became obsessed with fantasy football. So as I was playing a lot of fantasy football, I thought, all right, let me make this productive, otherwise I'm going to get myself into a lot of trouble. So I found, like I was saying, I found some things within fantasy football, some kinds of leagues that people weren't talking about. But there's a lot, ESPN, Roto World, that's owned by NBC, they were talking about a lot of different kinds of ways to play fantasy football. So I could see that the growth trajectory in that vertical there was something there. There was a way to build a business there. What wasn't being talked about were these leagues called dynasty leagues, where you would keep your players from year to year. So I built my own website on Yahoo web hosting in HTML, and had a friend of mine work on a logo for me. It looked okay, and we got it up and running, and then I started to build content around dynasty fantasy football, which didn't exist yet. And what that taught me was, if you can find a niche, that's where you can really carve out a way to build up web traffic. So in this, even though it was fantasy football, which really doesn't have much to do with what I do today, it's a good example where if anyone's building a business around content, they might be intimidated by all the other fish in the sea, all the other competition out there. And I think the biggest lesson I learned early on is, if you can find a niche, find something that you're interested in that nobody else is talking about, don't wait for somebody else to do it. Like, you go just start doing it, and then you become the person that's talking about really what nobody else is talking about. And so even if you get 5 or 10 people that's interested in your content, that's going to grow to 50, 100, 200, up to 1,000. And that's kind of how I got started as an entrepreneur, going from the Pistons, the job that everybody wanted. It was a job, which was great, but it was just a job. And then when I got a taste of, like, wow, I can build something that nobody else is doing, that's when I really got into it, and it was like the sky's the limit. And I knew kind of from that moment that I was going to be building my own businesses. So it started with the content.
Awesome. So tell us your demographic, who you work with now. Like, are they entrepreneurs? Are they small businesses? Who do you see? Who do you see in terms of, you doing the work on their website? Who do you see coming to, like, the data-driven academies, or like engaging with you on social media? Like, who's your audience?
Yeah, so right now, about 75% of who we do business with, I would say, are 1 to 4 person marketing departments or small businesses that are extremely successful. They just don't have a lot of the time themselves to build out all of the digital marketing efforts that it might take to truly grow their businesses. And so they either need to find a way to scale their team and learn the skills, or carve out some money in their budget to hire an agency. The problem is that agencies just really don't provide the value that they charge for. They just don't. They have a lot of overhead costs. They have a lot of meetings, they do a lot of talking, and it's a lot of great strategy. It's clear that they know what to do. It's just not as efficient as if you can teach someone to do it themselves. And so finding the right fit for the people for the academy has really come easily, because they're typically people that are wanting to put the work in to grow either their own business or the business that they work for. They're passionate about it. 1 to 4 person marketing teams. And they just need to learn the skills. They just need to know, what is it that the agency should be doing for me? If I could just learn it myself, then I can deploy it. And so for $500 or even like $150 for a class, you can learn the skills that you need, and then you put a little bit of extra time in to do what you need to do to grow your business, rather than pay an agency like $1,000 to $5,000 a month, which is just kind of crazy.
Okay, so if you are talking to someone who is an individual who's trying to start a business, like take a dream and make it into a website, what advice would you give them to even get to that point of being like having a small team? Like, if it's just me, what steps would you give me to take? What advice would you give me?
So I think for the Lady Lunch Club, all of the ladies most likely have all the drive and passion and like chip on your shoulder that I've had, or at least their own version of it. And for their own individual reasons, they're driven to, like you said, start. Well, let me do that over again. You're not saying it. So all the ladies at the Lady Lunch Club have their own versions of their drive, their passion, and their chip on their shoulder. And what I would advise them to do is don't listen to people who think it's crazy to spend a few extra hours outside of your full-time job or a few extra hours on the weekends to learn new skills. And whether it's the Data Driven Academy or whether it's just going online and Googling things, I would highly advise everyone, especially the ladies at the Lady Lunch Club, to look into tools that are free. I'll name a few of them right now, and use YouTube and Google to search for all the different things that they feel like they need to do. Take the extra time, be patient, don't feel like the world's caving in on you if you can't figure something out the first time you try it. And look into WordPress, look at Google Analytics, look at Google AdWords, look at Facebook Ads Manager, and go set up these free accounts. They're all free tools. You can't mess anything up. Go set up a free account and just Google like how to build a WordPress website. There's a theme that our team uses a lot. I talk about it openly and honestly. I put it in all of my proposals that we might use this theme. Most of the time we do. It's called Enfold. It's ENFOLD. It's a little gem of knowledge that I'll drop on everyone, but it costs like $150. You can download it. I would use GoDaddy web hosting. You can get a, I believe it's $12 for the first year of GoDaddy web hosting. So for under $200, you can basically start a website, upload your theme. If you use this theme like Enfold, it gives you a drag and drop editor, so you're basically a designer, a developer, all in one. And then it's all on you just to play around with it, have fun, build your own website. There's also a tool for SEO. There's also a tool, let me try it again.
No problem.
There's also a tool for SEO called Yoast, YOAST, and it's a free plugin. So if you go GoDaddy web hosting, Enfold theme, Yoast SEO, it's free. Now all of a sudden you're a web host, a web designer, a web developer, and you have an SEO tool that you can go in on every single page of your website and put all your keywords in on every page. So now for less than $200, you have all these things. So if you're a solopreneur just starting out, you don't even have an LLC, who cares if you have an LLC? Just start your own website, start to Google things, figure them out. Before you know it, what's more than likely going to happen is your 2 or 3 hours at night and your 2 or 3 hours on the weekend is going to be like all night, every night, and your spouse or your significant other is going to be like, hey, time out. Let's watch Netflix, let's do something together. But that's what I've been living, and that's what I'm passionate about. And so Kate, my wife, will always say time out. Now she's also my coworker, so she gets it a little bit more. But I think that for the ladies of Lady Lunch Club and for anyone else out there who wants to try their own thing, that's where I would start. And then of course there's millions of more tips that I could give and directions that I could point people in to keep learning things after that.
Awesome. Do you know, does GoDaddy have an affiliate program like Bluehost? Is it as easy to get on as Bluehost? Otherwise, I'll have
Okay.
I'm rolling. And when you start to answer the question, just reiterate that question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Are we rolling?
I'm rolling.
Okay, cool. I think women have the ability to get to the punchline very quickly in a normal conversation. And I think that that's very valuable when building content. I think that women can utilize their strength of being good listeners in putting themselves into the audience's shoes. And I've seen everybody have a tendency to overthink their content before they deploy it. But I think that I've seen women have the strength to be confident in what they're always going to say to someone in a face-to-face conversation. And I think that they can utilize that strength when deploying content on social media or on their blog because ultimately that is what their target audience wants to hear. Authenticity and value proposition, and that's just a fancy word for tell me why you're valuable to me. And I think that whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, I've seen women have the strength to just get to the punchline faster than men, not beat around the bush and just say what needs to be said in a very elegant but straight to the point way. So I think that I would encourage everybody out there, but especially women, to just utilize that strength and go after it. And don't overthink your content, just think it over and then go with it.
I think that's awesome. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Anything else, Valerie, that you can think of? Valerie did hers first, so now she's the official.
He already did the advice?
He talked about advice for women in creating content for their blogs and for their website. And for their
What
social
about
media.
for people who are like, I don't know, maybe you talked about this too, but I feel like sometimes women are intimidated about just tech in general, right?
That's a great one.
You know, it's just like, oh, I could never build a website. It's
Okay,
so
yeah,
hard.
that's a
Or I
good
could,
one too.
like, you know, I mean, you talked about plugins a little bit, and you talked about themes, but I still think for people who don't know those terms, and again, maybe it's women who are looking at this and they're just kind of like, you know, to them, building a website, you gotta learn HTML, you gotta know all this, it takes a long time, or you just need so much expertise to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so even if you talk about kind of like how women can DIY or how they can find affordable resources to help them get started.
Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm rolling.
All right. So one thing I want to say is that I've seen a lot of women that I've worked with actually get pigeonholed into the role of like social media girl. And so in a digital agency environment, I've actually seen some women just get put into the social media role. And I think that that's kind of unfair. I think that I would encourage everyone to speak up about what it is they really want to be doing. And so, for example, web design, web development, I encourage all women, really everybody, to be as valuable as you possibly can to get into that tech side of it. And it's really a lot less intimidating than you think. All of these tools, some of which I mentioned earlier, but whether it's a web host like GoDaddy, HostGator, WP Engine, let me do that one again. So on the tech side of things, whether it's getting in as a web host, on the hosting side, you have a lot of different free tools or tools that cost just a little bit of money to host WordPress websites like WP Engine, HostGator, Bluehost is a good one, and I mentioned GoDaddy earlier. Then you have themes, and I mentioned a theme called Enfold. All of these tools, you don't even have to really know a lot of the tech side of it, like HTML or CSS code. They give you the ability to use these out of the box and learn. And I'll give a couple great examples over the last couple of years. So 2 women in particular, actually 3 women in particular in the last couple of years. I'm a horrible teacher, but I've actually been able to teach 3 different women in the last couple of years that are extremely talented that I worked with. They were on the content side or the design side. 2 of them had no web development or web design experience whatsoever. And now they are fully building their own websites in this theme that I was talking about earlier, Enfold. And they really don't even know, they just have great creative minds. They're great copywriters. They're able to think through what would the web user want to see out of this. And then just with literally like less than 24 hours worth of me sitting down with them and just giving them access to the tools, not even really teaching them very much, but just giving them access to the tools, which is what we're trying to do here through this kind of content. They're able to go in and become tech savvy and teach themselves, DIY these tools and build websites on their own. And then it just builds confidence. Like, back 4 or 5 years ago, it was me. I had never done it before. I taught myself after working with developers. So I know the feeling of the developer telling you, oh no, you can't get into this. You're just a project manager, you know? And they're not trying to cut you down, but really it is kind of a blow to your confidence when you're involved in a tech project, but you don't know the other side of it. So 4 or 5 years ago, I said, I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna figure it out. And then that just opened up my earning potential skyrocketed from just teaching myself those skills. And so whether you're a male or a female, I see it happen more with females too, where they're a little bit more intimidated to get in to the tech side. But if they just give themselves access to these tools, they're going to be able to do what I did and what these other 3 women did that are part of my team, and be able to understand the tech side, have the chops to talk to anybody, and either earn more in their current job or start their own thing and be able to run a business related to website content, or even like an agency type business where they can build websites for other people.
Awesome. I think that's good.
Right.
Okay, so now we just need you to look in the camera and say, this is Paul Hickey. I am Paul Hickey, and this is Lady Lunch Club.
I am Paul Hickey, and this is Lady Lunch Club.
All right.